So the first part of our color wheel flowers is to create a background for our flowers. And we're gonna do that in an interesting way. We're gonna use a sponge, and we're gonna sponge paint the background of our project using two colors that are next to each other on the color wheel and white. So I decided to choose light blue, dark blue, and then white. Now for sponge painting, you're never gonna mix all of your colors together. And we're only gonna use the edge of our sponge. That way we can hold the other side and keep our hands clean. So I'm gonna just dip my sponge in and start stamping. And as I work through different colors, you're gonna notice that it starts to blend together on my paper. Now the key to doing stamping with a sponge is once you see something you like, leave it alone. Because if you keep going over the same part over and over and over and over, it's all gonna turn into one color and you're not gonna see all those different colors mixed together in fun ways. So I'm just gonna go around and fill up my entire space of my white paper using my sponge painting. Now we're gonna start to actually build our color wheel flower. So we're gonna need a couple of things. We're gonna need a color wheel to look at. We're gonna need our background paper. We're gonna need a glue sponge and scissors. And we're also gonna need a bunch of scraps of paper. I've got some that are just solid colors, I've got patterned paper, and I even have painted paper. So you're gonna have a lot of paper to choose from to make our flowers. Now, before I even start cutting out the petals of my flower, I wanted to decide where the middle is going to be. Now, I can put my center of my flower right in the middle of my paper, or I can put it a little higher, a little lower, a little to the side. It's totally up to you. I think I'm gonna put mine pretty much in the center. And if you notice, I'm taking a pencil and just making a dot. That's gonna actually be covered at the end, but that's gonna help me just know where the center is gonna be so I can start piecing my petals around that dot. And I'm gonna go ahead and start with my primary colors. So as we know, the primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. So I'm gonna go and look through my papers and find red, yellow, and blue. And they do not have to be solid colors. They could be patterned or painted, but I do need to start with those three colors. So I pulled out a solid blue, a solid red, and a patterned yellow. Now I'm gonna cut out shapes that I want for each of these petals. And they do not have to be the same size. They do not even have to be the same shape. That is totally up to you. So I'll go ahead and start with the red. And I'm just gonna create some kind of shape that I want for my first red petal. And I'm gonna make this one pretty big. And in real life, flower petals are not a perfect shape. So they absolutely do not have to be perfect. So I've got my red. I'm gonna do the same for the blue and the same for the yellow. So I have my three colors, my three primary colors. I cut out different shapes, different sized petals. I'm gonna get my glue sponge, and now I'm gonna look at my color wheel. And I'm gonna place the red, the yellow, and the blue about approximately where they should be on my color wheel. So I'll start with the red. I'm gonna take my glue sponge, I'm gonna push down in the glue, make sure I get my edges, my corners, and the red on my color wheel, and I'm gonna copy this, is toward the top. So I'm gonna keep it the same. I'm gonna go ahead and go to the top of that dot, or on it, it doesn't really matter, and I'm gonna glue down my petal. Now you might notice the petal is going off the paper, and that is totally okay. It does not have to fit on your paper. Once your petal is down, you're gonna flip your paper over and rub it into place. That way it's nice and flat on your design. I'm gonna repeat that step and I'm gonna start with my yellow one this time. I'll take my yellow, get some glue on the back of it, and my yellow is down toward the right. So I'm not gonna put it next to the red because I still have to put all those red, orange, and orange yellows in there, right? So I have to leave some space. And I'm gonna put my yellow petal right around there. I'm gonna flip it over, rub it into place so it's nice and flat, and turn it over. Same thing for the blue. Take my blue piece, I'm gonna put it in the glue sponge, and my blue is gonna go in this area. So I'll put that right around there, push it down, rub it into place, and now my primary colors are done. So now I'm gonna move to my secondary colors, which are orange, purple, and green, like we learned about. So I'm gonna look through my colors of paper, and I found purple, I found green, and I also found orange. Okay, so I'm gonna cut out shapes for those petals, and then we'll glue those down as well. Now, as we know on the color wheel, our secondary colors are created from mixing two primary colors. So I'm gonna put each of those secondary colors right in the middle between the two primary colors that make that color. So I'll start with the orange. Now we learned that red and yellow make orange, and we can see that right on the color wheel. So I'm gonna put that orange right between my red and my yellow. Put the glue on there. And if it goes on top of some of your other ones, that's totally fine, because again, we're gonna be covering this at the end. Put that down, flip it over, and rub it into place. If it goes off the edge, not a big deal. It'll actually look a little more real because of that. I'm gonna repeat those steps for the green. I'm gonna put that right between the yellow and the blue because we know that's where it goes on the color wheel, and because yellow and blue make green. Flip it over, rub it into place. And I'll take my purple. And we know that purple is made by mixing red and blue. Also, we can check right on our color wheel. It's right between red and blue. And I'll place it down in the middle there. Flip it over and make sure it's all flat. So I have my primary colors and my secondary colors done. But now we're gonna fill in the missing pieces of our color wheel by combining the primary color with the secondary color. So I'm gonna look through my papers and I'm gonna try to find a color that's red purple. It kind of has a mixture of the two. And I'm gonna look at these and find one that is red orange and has a mixture of those. And we're gonna repeat that for each in-between section. So I found this painted paper and I see yellows and oranges in here. So this would be a perfect one to put right between the yellow and orange. So just like we did for everything else, you're going to cut out a piece of that paper that you want to use for your petal. You make up the shape. It does not have to be a certain shape. It could be whatever kind of petal design you want. And we're gonna put the glue on it. And again, put it between the two colors that it should be between. In this case, it's yellow-orange. Flip it over and rub it into place. In my collection of papers, I also found this patterned paper, and this one I think would go perfectly between blue and purple because it has some of those dark blues in there and some light purples. I'm gonna cut out a smaller one this time, I think, because again, they should all be different sizes, doesn't have to all match. Okay, and I'm gonna glue that one down right in between the blue and the purple. And flip it over. Now I'm gonna look for the purple and the red and the orange, and all the other ones that I haven't done yet. So I completed my entire color wheel, and now all I'm gonna do is think of the center design. Now I used a lot of colors. You can choose any color you want for the center. I'm actually deciding to use black just because I want it to be a little different than all of those petals. And you can do whatever you want for the center. I'm just gonna make some curvy edges around like an oval shape, and I'm gonna test it out before I glue it down to see if it's the right size, to see if it's what I want, and then we'll adjust it however I need to. Okay, so that's my initial shape. Now let's see, if I put it up here, do you see how it's not covering that petal? So let's see if I can adjust it a little. Oh, and actually if I rotate it and I turn it like that, it's gonna cover all of my petals perfectly. So I think that's perfect. I'm gonna leave it like that and glue that down. So I glued down the black, and then I actually ended up deciding to add a second circle in yellow, or I should say like a curvy circle in yellow. And I think that just made my flower look a little more complete. Now, if you're happy with it, you can kind of rotate it and see which direction you like the finished product to be. And you could just leave it like that. It's beautiful. If you want to add a stem to it, you can always do that. Maybe I could hold it tall again and add a stem, or I can add a leaf, anything else that you want to add. But I'm really happy with mine, and I actually really liked the way that it looked when it was in landscape and wide. So I'm gonna leave mine like that, but see what you want to create for yours and see what you can come up with to make your beautiful color wheel flower.